I've been a professional artist for 62 years. I've done a lot of artwork in that time, and I'm still just trying to get it right.
Hello,
Yeah.
Greg.
Hey,
Hi,
how you
Gene.
doing?
Hi.
He says, let me just turn this down a little bit.
Oh, there you go. Can people actually hear you? Do you know if they're there?
We have a couple people watching us already. I'm assuming they can hear us.
Well, tell them to blink if they can.
Blink if you can hear us, everyone.
How do you like my latest work? It's like something I've been working on for a long time, and I think it's finally starting to get there. You know, just kidding.
It's a modern art masterpiece.
Yeah, modern art. That's a misnomer. People, like, oh, that's modern art. Well, animation and film is modern art. Photography is modern art. It's like I don't. People say I don't like modern art or I like modern art, when they should be more specific. It should be, do you like abstract expressionism? Do you like, whatever, Jackson Pollock? Do you like? But modern art, and they used to assault Disney at the apex of the modern art movement, which is to say the abstract expressionists, with starting in the 50s, mainly in New York City. And I don't want to get into particulars of it, but they would the intelligentsia, the in people would praise that to high heavens and assault people like Norman Rockwell or Walt Disney. And and they always touted that Picasso was the greatest modern artist. Well, on a pragmatic level, what do you mean? He was the great. He was working with paint, paper, clay pots. Disney was working with film, with movement, with animation, with, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Somehow it used to be that it had to be a single artist. If you had a group of artists working on something, it wasn't worth shit. That's not art. And I remember an article as a little kid when I used to pour through Tim and I go to the library to look for all the information we could on special effects or Disney or animation. And I remember coming across this one magazine. It was an art magazine with a big headline. It's still in my mind. I wish I could find the magazine. I don't remember what the title of it was, but there was a big headline. I think it was in reference to Fantasia or Pinocchio. I can't remember right now. I think Pinocchio. It's nice, Mr. Disney, but is it art? And I remember freaking out in the library as a little kid. You're damn right it is! Whatever that means.
Yes.
Again, it's like words and categories and classifications that people get. This is this modern art.
I was looking through a Frank Frazetta book one time, and a guy, he was looking over my shoulder, and he referenced it as being Mickey Mouse. And
right.
He was like, I look at this work, and instantly I already understand the psychology. Sorry, I have to give his accent when I do it because it's just his accent is so dramatic.
Yeah.
And
that used to be the ultimate put down. But that used to be the ultimate put down. What do you make? I remember when I was working at Jam Handy's, the industrial film producer in Detroit, where I started at 18 in the animation department, opaquing cells. And that, the modernist guys, who I love, don't get me wrong, and they were great artists too, would always say, what are you doing, making a Mickey Mouse? Because I was still into drawing 3D figures, three-dimensionally. Everything then was this 2D UPA, of stuff. But nothing moved in towards you. There was no squash and stretch anymore. It was all, just. And this became an art form. People touting it as an art form in itself, which we all know basically was just a quick, cheap way to knock out animation for TV.
Yeah.
So it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was the ultimate put down. Drawing the more classical type cartoon style was that, what are you doing? Making a Mickey Mouse?
Yeah.
Weird, huh?
Oh, well. So, we were talking about, kind of continuing on that conversation from last week of, like the artist's role in society, right? And, you and I were talking about, that topic kept stirring around from, us talking and you bringing up the point of, am I doing what I should be doing? Should I be doing more? Recognizing that that you're a working artist, so you have to make your living.
Yep.
But at the same time, do you have a civil responsibility to say something else with your art? Right. So that's kind of how this conversation
Right.
really came about, right?
Well, and it depends on your point of view and the kind of a person that you are, and each point of view would be valid. Humphrey Bogart used to say, "All I owe my audience is a good performance." Well, he was acting. He was somewhat of an activist in that witch hunt period. Nonetheless, he did stand up against that. But nonetheless, that was the stand. Yeah, that's hey, great. I mean, he was an actor. He was an entertainer. So I mean, as an artist, a graphic artist, we're talking what? Painter, graphic artist. We're talking every artist, musical, dramatist, writer.
For us, in general, we could talk. Obviously, our perspective is going to be coming from commercial artists,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's illustrative or advertising or whatever. But I think the conversation in general encompasses all of the arts.
Yeah. Right. But yeah. We can only talk about our experiences, though. I mean, we can.
Yeah.
We're not.
Yeah. And, but like certainly, with music, music and film are maybe the most out there in your face, and and you think about like a period of activism in music, like the 60s and the 70s, the response to the Vietnam War and stuff like that was coming out, that all had some kind of social message.
Powerful ones too, like Ohio, but
died out.
Yeah, right? Like Neil Young's Ohio after the Kent State massacre, shooting and all that. I mean, really strong ones. Yeah, no two ways about it. And I still hear that song. I'll put it on Pandora, and what station I'm listening to, that song is played still. It's still, and a lot of the songs of the 60s are still relevant today. Yeah. In terms of that, I mean, is there a response? Do we have a responsibility? Do we have a? It depends on the individual. If you sense that you feel that you do, then do something. The thing is, it's risky business, especially right now. If you're going to take a stand, it could be dangerous. Of course, it always could be dangerous throughout time. Yeah. But I think the way that things are in this country right now, it's like people, it's so, I mean, it's insane. There's an insanity that's let loose,
Yeah, I think, well, for at least in this country, in this moment in time, we're not in a place of where we're going to be physically executed by being labeled a heretic.
Not by church or state. No, I'm talking about. I'm not talking about that.
Places in the world.
There are
in the world. That is definitely
absolute reality.
Yeah.
I'm not even talking about the state. I'm talking about government. I'm talking about individuals. There are so many people now that seem to be loaded for bear that it's almost like they could do something so irrational as to react to something that an artist may say, draw, paint, compose that could be detrimental to the artist's life. I mean, I don't know whether that's a paranoia that I have or a fear, or it's real. I've never heard it happen, but it's a thought,
I don't know that I've ever heard anything of like physical in nature happening, but obviously it could, end your career,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're like. I was watching not to do with art, but I was watching a brief thing in the news. Eating my Cheerios this morning, and on CNN of a doctor in Tennessee who apparently stood up and gave a talk about masks and wear masks, and they had a footage of him leaving the hall last night or the night before last, when the hell ever this was. I mean, you should have seen the mob. You talk about mob rules.
Mm-hmm.
It was terrifying. They're screaming and bellowing and in this man's face. Young guys, young burly guys coming down on this doctor. It looked like they were going to just hit him at any second. It was insane looking. It was like something out of a movie, you know.
In reality, it only takes one person to flip that switch for the whole mob.
Exactly.
To flip it. And Dean 13 here said, and I'm going to butcher the French pronunciation. Jesuits Charlie. It's the newspaper in France where they did.
Oh right, where they killed it. They killed the guys because he was making
the cartoonist.
Yeah. Oh my God. That was terrible. And that leads you all of a sudden to think, oh my God. Because I mean, who one of us is a graphic artist? Most of us, I'm sure, I know I do, draw my instant reactions down to events that are going on, in this country or the world, in drawing form or statement or something. But I won't put it out there.
It's sad. It almost makes it like you're doing it. And I mean, I've been fortunate enough to see the work that you're talking about. And in my opinion, it's important work that you're doing. It's powerful work, but yet the potential ramifications for the work.
Yeah. It's I think my first fear is one of actual physical fear. The second one would be, you lose potential work, in people, buying your work. I mean, but that's totally secondary, because I mean, I've thought about that. If that's not really my thought, my other thought is just physical. You know what I mean? It's a physical fear. That's what it is. Just like the newspaper we just talked about. Yeah. And because I think that possibility is not just over there; it's everywhere. It's here in this country. Look what happened in Washington, for God's sakes.
It's true.
You don't know what the hell's going to happen. Somebody could trigger something, and like you said, one person incite God knows. I don't know.
Now, so for yourself, with the kid stuff series you've been doing, you've been getting more, symbolism going on and things like that in the work. Do you foresee anything happening of where it could flip the switch in your head of where you're like, now is the time. Now I have to, I have to use my creative voice and my creative reach to put my absolute thoughts and feelings on this subject out there. Do you foresee a time where that could
absolutely
happen? Or
that I could definitely foresee the time, and it's if not now, when?
Yes,
that's always it.
If not now,
when? And you can, and I procrastinate and put that off. And no, I've gone out and did stuff in the past and things. Then you pull back, and then you kind of like just leave it all, and just say the hell with it. And and what is that? What am I going to do? Am I going to make a difference in the world? I mean, but then again, if you start to feel that way, then nobody makes a difference. And your voice is as important as everybody else's voice is, and so I don't know. Is there some responsibility that you should do that, or you have to do that? I think it's only a personal thing you're going to feel. Is I've got to do this. I mean, it isn't like there's somebody that some higher thing that's pointing at you that you must do this. Or you should do this. It's internal. But I can see getting closer to that for sure. Because I've got tons of stuff and ideas and thoughts and pages of drawings and sketches and ideas and comps and you know, that I would like to get to. Hmm.
And
Again, I
you know,
think we go.
kind of at the end of the day, the proverbial end of the day, uh, you know, you do have a following, right?
Yep.
We know that art has the potential to make a huge impact.
Mhm.
So, you know, my feeling on it, you know, for you and even for myself, is that there is an importance to let the people that follow you know exactly where you stand.
Mhm.
Now, I mean, your art doesn't have to be so literally translated to where it's like, you know, you're basically writing on the page. And it
Right.
doesn't it doesn't have to be that, but
No, right.
you know, like,
What we
do you feel that it's important that people that are, you know, fans of your work that have been following it since, you know, the Lord of the Rings days, um, know how you feel?
well, well, that's a good. Do I think it's
Or you're
important?
not even necessarily how you feel, but if those give it, do they deserve the opportunity to see how Greg Hildebrandt observes, ingests, and then regurgitates his views on the world?
Well, the way you I can't. Do they deserve that? I mean, no, that's funny the way you. Uh Look, I mean, my main thing is would anybody be interested? Would anybody care, or would they just want to see what I keep doing? And and I try to jump out of myself, not so much in subjects that we're talking about, like that are hyper personal, in terms of either spiritual or political or sociological, or all those ideas that whole world is. But I do jump around in different genres and try to jump out of what I was doing before. And
Yeah.
sometimes that's risky because people,
Yep.
oh my God, you used to, but you did Hobbits. I remember I used to get that, because you'd do something else. And I think I said this last week, maybe not, but it's a kind of a situation. The way I got to it is a lot of people want, not everybody, not, I'm not making a blanket statement about all my fans, don't take it wrong, please. But I think there's a kind of an idea, and I'm the same way. They want to keep me in their past. It's almost like,
Yes.
well, if a rock and roller starts to try something new, somebody that you like, I don't care who, name somebody. And, you've
Yep.
been so used to listening to the classic rock station that you're only listening to that. And she tries something else out, and you kind of react to, I don't want to. There's always that, you know.
I've got a good Steve Jobs quote. Steve Jobs, the
Yeah.
one of the founders of Apple, is
Yep.
that um, I'm going to paraphrase him here, but basically, the public doesn't know what they want until I give it to them.
Well, there you go.
It's essentially it. It's like being.
Well, yeah, fashion is the same. Clothes designers set the trend, and then people want that. And
Yep.
The thing is, though, how do you transcend that momentary thing like that? Fashion. That's the thing that we're into, like particularly comics, right? That whole genre
Yep.
of comics is so. You deal with artists and writers are working in a particular time slot, and then that time is over, and a new generation comes up. They're gone. A new batch takes over. What the hell happened to these people? They're locked into a space and time in a way, unless you're consciously trying to keep moving forward, right?
But there are two different elements to that. I think uh, you you get people who get locked in a style, so to speak, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the world moves on without them.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have people who were able to create something so meaningful and impactful that regardless of style, it transcends time.
Mm-hmm.
It transcends generations.
Mm-hmm.
And
Like, you're talking like what, for example? What's your example would be?
Charles Dickens, right? A Christmas Carol.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
That
Yes.
that book had an impact, and that was the
You look at
image used for this conversation.
yeah.
And
Oh my God,
you have,
overwhelming.
again, but you even have the old masters for the visual arts,
Mhm.
or Beethoven for music, or even if
There-
you want to go with modern pop music, you've got the Beatles,
Or
right?
you've got Schuster and Siegel's Superman. That was
Superman.
completely different in 1938 as to, he kept morphing along and changing and all. Yeah.
Yep. Or so it's like every now and then, and it's usually, I'm trying to collect my thoughts on that, because I was gonna try to put it all into a lump sum category, but I don't know that I can.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
other than saying that something somewhere catches the spark, right? And it doesn't have to be like the most intricate, detailed thing. It doesn't have
Right.
to be the most, have you ever heard of the book The Giving Tree?
Yeah, I've heard the book. Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
not scared.
and again, it's such a simplistically drawn children's book, but the
Content,
morality of the book is
message.
so powerful
Yeah. Yeah.
that it carries it on.
Yeah, and that kind of thing lives forever. I mean,
Yeah.
you're like Dickens with the Christmas Carol. The message, the aside from his magnificent style and the characters that he creates, it's what's he after in that thing. What's that story all about?
Yep.
It's powerful and transcends time. And that's from past to the present to the future. It'll just last and last and last. And I think that's always like the internal thought that artists have, is a hope or aspiration or feeling that they want, is that it's just not this thing that's going to last for a minute. And yet everything today is so fast. Stuff comes and goes a mile a minute, right?
Yep.
Look at the TV series, the huge spectacular things. I mean, one show used to be a theatrical movie that would stay in the theater for 6 months back. I can remember movies staying in a theater for a year, and people would just keep going back and seeing it. Now things come and go so fast. So
yeah, in and out in weeks. I mean, the art that I primarily do, literally, is good for maybe 15 to 20 minutes.
you're talking what kind of art? No,
The advertising.
the advertising art. Yeah.
We work with pitch boards and storyboards and things like that, and so
But look at how they used to treat comics, newspaper strips, with the magnificent art that used to be in those strips. Name somebody who, Hal Foster, Prince Valiant, Bern Hogarth, Tarzan. At least in my time, you'd wrap your garbage in it at the end of the day and throw it in the garbage can.
Yep.
That's how people.
Yeah. The daily funnies. So, I mean, this whole conversation is something that I've been, wrestling with, quite a bit, in that, and from multiple perspectives. For like 18 years, I worked with people with disabilities, right?
Yeah. Yes.
In an art program.
Yep.
And before I ever started there, and when I was still in art school and just doing it, my one of my main goals really was I wanted to make people happy and smile with art. Right?
Yeah.
That was the goal.
Yeah. That's a great goal.
And I recently left that job, and it kind of took me a while to get there in my mind, but because it's like, okay, yeah, my personal career isn't where I would want it to be, or where I desire it to
be. Right.
But having to come to grips with, I accomplished my goal.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. I wanted to make people smile through art.
Right.
I did that. It wasn't necessarily my art that was making people smile.
You were facilitating them to be able to execute what they had.
The technical ability that I possess was able to allow the individuals I worked with the opportunity to create their own art.
And you worked with completely, almost
Yeah, most
fully
of them
disabled
were
people.
quadriplegic and
Right.
you no use of the hands, no use of
That's
the
a
legs.
that's a fantastic achievement. I mean, it really is a great goal and an
So,
incredible.
but yeah, so it took me a while to come to terms with those things and to be like kind of comfortable and at peace with it,
Mhm.
right? And then to now regroup and pursue my voice again,
Yeah.
right? And my artistic voice.
Right.
And so that's kind of this conversation, that we've been going back and forth, and it really was, brought about by you saying it. Is should I be doing something else?
Yeah. Hmm.
Really got it working and grinding in my mind too.
Yeah. Like I said, I think it said something to the effect of that. Sometimes, many times, you have to either abandon or put aside higher objectives for lower objectives. You know what I mean? Whatever.
Yes.
So the objectives, not that I'm classifying them as below, but just it's not the ultimate thing that you think that you should be pursuing. And that's if you got a family, you have to make a living. You're realist. You got to do these things in the world to
Yep.
for a living, and that's that.
Yeah.
And
But there is the time of when. Now it might come in the wee hours of the morning, when everyone else is sleeping, but there comes the time to then chase the objective,
mhm,
and chase that dream down,
right,
and as you said, pursue the higher minded
hmm,
aspirations.
yeah, for you personally, the higher minded. It's like that. That's your. That's not to say that you don't give. I want to make sure we stick the work that you do to make a living any less dedication, focus, or concentration. I mean, I do. I always have. I mean, that's just a professional. That's just being professional. You give it everything
Yep.
you've got, no matter who it is, because you've signed a contract or whatever, or it's a verbal, or it's a Jersey contract, an agreement between
Yep.
people, and you're going to do the job, and that's it. You give it everything you've got, to the best of your ability.
Yeah.
And which Joe Kubert always used to say that's one of the toughest things in the world to do. I remember that, and I taught at school for a couple of years. Joe Kubert was one of the great comic artists of all time, but writers, creators. I mean, and a teacher. But he used to say that was probably the most difficult thing in the world to do for an artist is to work on something that they have no interest in or dislike. You know what I mean? I don't want to do it, but yet you got to do it. It's like I remember there was a film years ago. What the hell was it? George Siegel. He played a commercial artist, and I remember he was a guy that he didn't want to do this shit anymore. He had to go to this trucker played by who was it? He played Jack D. Ripper in Dr. Strangelove. General Jack D. Ripper. He had to go to this trucking magnate guy. I love trucks. Oh my God! He had to put this huge, bawling act on of how much he loved trucks so he could get the job of painting a picture of a truck. Just I don't know what. Maybe somebody out there remembers that film. I can't remember the title.
Yes. So yeah, we had several people, chiming in, saying hi and all that. And David Wilcox says that, Greg, you could wipe mud on cardboard and it would be remarkable. Your work is that meaningful and or wonderful and inspiring to him. And
well, you see, that's the other thing. It's like you don't have to have political, sociological content necessarily. A beautifully painted. Look at Monet's landscapes, for Christ's sake. You know what I mean? It's like, oh my God. That is, it's its own art is its own justification. What's on that level,
On that, yeah, but that's kind of in the same point. Is it doesn't necessarily have to be political. You don't have to be making a political statement,
right?
But bringing beauty in. You know.
beauty. You focus on that. You focus on the natural world, on the way things are. You know, the way it is incredible. I mean, this is like, to me. I mean, I always fall back on whether I achieve it or not. Highly doubtful, but it's like I gain my inspiration from nature. The effort is to be true to nature. You know, in layout or composition or drawing or rendering or lighting, or structure, the way things work and look in the world that we inhabit, being true to nature. I'm not saying that's the only way to be. I'm just
No,
saying
that's just your way.
yeah, it's a
That's
way
your
that I operate. And I think that's the effort. Then next to that, then it's like, well, content. Now, what's the content of what it is you're going to do? And when you're doing stuff for Marvel or something, well, the content's already given. It's Spider-Man chasing a bad guy.
Yeah.
Now your job is to come up with a good composition, and draw it well and light it well, and do all that stuff.
Now that brings up an interesting side point for me, particularly with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, there's nothing wrong with Spider-Man. I love Spider-Man. Spider-Man's fun. One of the best characters of pop culture, right? Even the intent, the intention of the character is great.
Yeah.
But for me personally, it's like, what more could I possibly bring to the table that hasn't already been said,
Been brought,
that hasn't already been done?
right?
And and it's like, I see what you do, and you're like, yeah, you're doing great Spider-Man and things like that.
No, there's so many people. That's the thing I always face. I look at the stuff that I do for Marvel or anybody that's highly recognizable. I'm always in that spot. Oh my God, what am I going to do? That's like, look at so and so. That look at blah. You can name them all and line them up, and you see the work that's been done. Not only the creators and the inventors of those characters and circumstances and stories, but the many artists who executed it have been so fantastic. It's like, you look at your stuff and you say, that feeling is always there for me.
Yeah, and yeah. I mean, because it's like, you and I've talked about that before. Of like, well, one, primarily, it's not yours. It's not your character,
right?
So you don't have you don't necessarily have the passion to.
Right. No, you don't. Not if it's yours. If it's yours, that's right. No, you're a professional at that point.
Yeah.
You're a professional. You apply everything that you know professionally, and there's an excitement about it. Every picture I come to, there's a turn on to it. There's because I mean, just on the level of, I don't know how it's going to end up. There's no certitude that it's going to end up being good at all when you start anything.
Yeah.
I don't care how long you've been at this. You still approach a blank canvas or a blank piece of paper, and you've got to fill it up. And what will that be? It could be a total flop. It could be a piece of crap. I mean, that's always there. But that there's a kind of a excitement about pursuing that. Or trying to,
yes, yeah.
You conquering that anxiety or fear or all that stuff, getting beyond that, not just doing it. And then you arrive at a point of, well, all the intellectual, mental gymnastics that you're doing, like, in the end, it's like, well, sink or swim, damn it. I mean, whatever comes out, and that's what the hell it's going to look like. And if that's it. I mean,
but at some point, and I think that this kind of what spawns this conversation, and I don't want to use Spider-Man as the example here. We could name any random project.
Mm-hmm.
But do you get to a point where you feel like it's like, okay, this is how I get myself excited about this painting. You know, it's like I work out the composition, the lighting, the color, and all of that. But is there a point where it feels shallow to you, or do you not get that way?
I don't know if it's shallow. I don't know that may I have to think about that, but I don't know if that's the word. I mean, it gets to a point with any one of those images of after I've, like as you say, you approach the drawing board and you've got the pencil in hand, and now what's those? You used to have to do all those little doodles, working it out. There's that. Oh, here, no, coming from the right. No, what's the composition? Oh, do I want a dead on triangular? Oh, maybe no position the primary. You're working it all. So I like all that process. It's like a labyrinth. You're making your way through a labyrinth kind of like thing, you know. Exploring, figuring, exploring. It's exploring, and you achieve it. Okay, there's the setup. There's my composition. Okay, I'm going with that. Now then you're thinking while that you're doing that, you're thinking about lighting. So that's all. Now there's no time with any of that you're thinking about anything about shallowness or greatness or anything. All you're doing is working it out. You're just working it out and being absorbed with that, like anybody else is with doing work, you know. And if the thing is, I enjoy that process. Some people may not enjoy that process. I like that process. Then you get to a point where okay, it's set now. You're gonna know if you're using models, you get models, you take pictures, or you get your reference material, you assemble it all. Now you do your final drawing. There's still this working it all out and all the detailing of finding stuff and structuring, and still you start the painting, you get the painting, you want to mix your paint, mix them all, get the colors set, start the paint for 2 days, 3 days. I'm into the painting maybe a third of the way. I already know exactly where it's all going to end up. At that point, it comes to an end for me here. Then it's just your unadulterated work to try to get the goddamn thing finished.
Okay.
Even though you're not stinting on the work.
Another question. I'm going to ask you another question. I don't know. Maybe you have thought about this before. Maybe you haven't. It's a two-part question. The first part is, what piece of art have you done that has maybe had the most emotional significance to you?
Well, the dream paintings, I think, that I was doing back in the 70s, one painting which became used by Black Sabbath on their Mob Rules album cover in 1980.
Yep.
Another one, I've got this cross being hauled through the dumps, you know, which is something that people, if you want to look at it, you can go look at it on our website. But that, to me, because that was a summation and a representation. That showed up in a not completely deep state dream, you know, REM state, that where you're drifting off, conscious is leaving you and the subconscious is emerging. You know, that space. Images will form for me a lot of the times. Something, you know, just comes, not in absolute detail, but the thing is there. That's where that one came from my experience, and so that is really emotionally significant to me.
Okay. Second part to the question. If you never got the opportunity to paint another image with that level of emotional significance to you, would you be satisfied?
No, absolutely not at all. Because the thing is, it's always there. In my mind, it's always out there. I'm working towards that. Yeah. I'm working towards that. You know? And we've talked about this before. A couple of the things that I really did think in the day, and I still in my memory think, these are the things I did that really, I think, made a big difference in the world. With these films, a couple of them that I made for Fulton J. Sheen on world hunger.
Yeah.
I go back in my mind to that, and in a way, I remember seeing Orson Welles on Dick Cavett's show many years ago. Dick Cavett was a late night talk show. We used to have a lot of artists and political people and writers and all kinds of stuff. Welles was on the show, and he said, I forgot, I'm paraphrasing him, I think, but he said the work that he would hold at Heaven's Gate to get in was Chimes at Midnight. So, and for me, that film in mind, there's one film that I did with Fulton Sheen after he said, make this film, Tim and me, that would be the one so far that I would hold up.
Wow.
And because, I mean, afterwards, what I heard about the film, how people responded to it over the years and the impact it made on them, you know? And then an original book that I did with my brother, Urusharak, a fantasy book that, you know, lasted on the New York Times bestseller list for a couple of weeks. But we tried to get off the ground. I remember going to a convention in signing in Germany, and there was one young man, a middle-aged guy. He read the book and he said it changed his life. You know, which
That's amazing. That's
it's
awesome.
like he said it totally changed his life. And so that when you hear that stuff, that's like, whoa, you know.
Yeah.
But still, coming back to what you were saying about your objective with at Matheny School, about, you know, you want to make people smile and be happy. That's fantastic. This is like, if that happens with what I do, that's great too. I mean, there's nothing, you know, I forgot who Mahler. I'm going to goof it up. Gustav Mahler, the great composer, classical composer, said something about art's objective was to uplift and inspire. I mean, I'm paraphrasing it. I'm sure somebody out there. I'll look it up later. I got it written down somewhere. You know, that's art's purpose. You know, is to really elevate you. You know, and that was the ancient idea of the Greek theater, wasn't it? To transform.
Yes.
Transformation was the ultimate objective. Entertain, yeah, you got to be entertaining. It has to be well done, well crafted, well made. You know, well acted, well designed, well painted, well composed. But ultimately, if you could elevate consciousness or transform, that's the ultimate objective.
And, I mean, and that's certainly what we are seeing in the world today. If something is well done, or even, you know, it doesn't have to be complex or anything like that. If it's well done or catchy, people will consume it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have to be able to make something they'll eat, but that at the same time will nourish.
Right.
You
You have to be true to yourself. You have to be. You can't lie to yourself. You have to, and you have to depend on other people too. The Beatles song, I made it through with a little help from my friends, or a lot of
will
help.
help my friends.
You know, and you know, people that surround you, and people like Gene, for me, for the last 40-something years, you know, and friends like you, that, you know, you depend on that to move you along, to inspire you, to, you know, to do all kinds of things. You know, you don't do it alone. You don't do it alone. Well, maybe some people have. The greats have. You know, Van Gogh. Well, he had his brother though.
And he didn't know it until
Right.
after the fact. But so I get Dean 13 throws from Chris Ware's sketchbook. I guess Chris Ware says, the goal of great art is making a real moment for someone who isn't born yet.
Well, that's
So,
oh my God.
I got another question for you that could take this, you know, just as anywhere. You know, we're on the topic of, you know, essentially social consciousness with art.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what role do we play? You know, what should we be saying? What should we be doing in the world? Because, you know, not everything is honky dory out there in the world right now.
Oh my
You know,
God.
now maybe
Oh.
you know, maybe the job of certain artists again are to uplift and inspire, or the job of other artists are to expose hypocrisies, or to reveal other truths, or whatever. Now, I'm gonna bring up maybe it feels like the skeevy side of all this. It's presented in a very positive way, and it's maybe at the end of the day a good thing, but the motives to me seem to be, like I said, skeevy. And where I'm going with that is the commercialism of equality, right?
Okay.
So
Yep.
when, you know, we have Pride Month, which is a great thing. You know,
Yep.
you know, gay people throughout history have been persecuted and put down and discriminated on and beat up in any number of things,
Yeah.
which I don't agree with any of that. You know, let people be.
Absolutely.
Right?
To each their own.
So the fact that we're getting to a point in society of where people could be open about who they are, to me, is a wonderful thing.
Mhm.
But we now have major corporations that jump on it to capitalize on the commercialism of it.
You mean like TV commercials?
TV commercials, or like, oh, I put out my special edition tennis shoes that have the rainbow on them, and because they're special edition, I jack up the price.
Good old American capitalism, man. Cash in on everything that you can, basically.
Yeah, and it's
about talking about cashing in. It's like,
yeah, so but it's such a weird dichotomy, and maybe I did
Yeah,
not
it
have
is.
a point other than to wanting to express the of being torn of that dichotomy of seeing something good,
right, put in such,
but it's only coming about for a capitalistic gains.
yeah, right.
You know, because if
Yep.
people weren't buying the products, these companies wouldn't be supporting the cause.
Well, no,
Very
they,
few of
they,
them.
they, they would quickly take that rainbow logo off and stick on a lightning bolt or what the hell ever would work. You know,
Whatever else,
whatever would work. I mean, whatever would sell.
whatever the trendy thing of the day is.
And find all kinds of ways to justify it and whatever. Yeah.
And so, so I guess of being a commercial artist and someone who, work in a lot of advertising art and do a lot of that stuff on the grunt end of things,
Mhm.
like I said, all the pre-production stuff, but it's a very interesting dynamic that I'm seeing is social progress through capitalistic gain.
Yeah, I got it. You're really, I can see where that's not something that I've really thought about too much myself, actually.
Yeah.
But I see where you're coming from, and I can get that totally.
Yeah, and I don't know if, as a commercial artist, it's your job to do it.
Well, you're making a living.
advertise.
You're making a living as long as it doesn't come up against your principles, your ethics, your morals, what the hell ever. It's like one thing that after I smoked. I stopped smoking 45 years ago, but as time went by, though, I would never do anything dealing with a cigarette commercial. And there was a lot of money involved with some of that stuff. But I would not, I wouldn't take that on in any way, form, or manner. I certainly would never do anything that would add to people's hate or prejudice in any way, form, or manner. In what I do, it's just not, no, N-O, big N-O, but as far as like what you're talking about, like this, capitalizing on contemporary causes for the almighty dollar. That's, some people would say, well, why not? I mean, it's at least you're forwarding people's awareness, and you're making money doing it. So what's wrong with that?
Yeah, it's like Cliff Roth over here said that on the bright side, it does mean that they're recognizing the size of the potential audience, which is true. It's you're finally acknowledging an entire demographic.
Right. Well, that's going to keep moving forward. All that stuff, everything is like in that direction. Yeah. There's no two ways about it. The world is changing, and what's the Bob Dylan song? The times they are changing. Don't stand in the doorway. Don't block up the hall. Get the hell out of the way. Things are moving forward, as much as it may appear not to be.
Yeah.
Things of this nature. Because I can remember the day. I remember being in Meinzinger's art school for that brief stay that I was in 6 months art school in Detroit, Michigan. It was read and write arithmetic school, life class.
Yeah.
Color design, anatomy, and it was great teachers, great 6 months, and great people, the students. I remember there was one big guy. He was a real burly kind of guy. He would go out and make a point on the weekends to go out and beat up gay guys. This would be something that they would talk about. Other guys would, and then they were. He was like isolated by himself, and I don't remember too many being friends with him. But this is what this guy would do. And I remember one day he came in, totally fucking beat up, bruised and smashed with bandages on. I just said, hallelujah. But that was the mentality back then. Well, look at Hollywood. Look at the movie code. If you go read the movie code, the old movie code started when the hell? What? 1933. It's almost like impossible to make a movie, which you can and can't do. And they would call that sexual deviancy, homosexuality. And you couldn't even use the word. And look at black people. African Americans were slaves or servants or step and fetch-its, And now, I don't know why I'm segueing down that road, but things are advancing. Things are getting better in that respect,
Yes. Yep.
And go back further and further, the further back you go, 100 years, 200 years, 300 years, 400 years, things are better. There's no two ways about it.
They most certainly are. I mean, I know I think it feels particularly tough right now because we're in a 24-hour news cycle.
Right.
That, we're just constantly plugged in. And the fact of the matter is that people love conflict. People love arguing. People love disasters. It's like flies to turds.
Yeah. Well, look at the
That's
rubbernecking on highways, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And so we're just fed.
Well, look at
the time.
Look at the crap rags like the National Enquirer that invent all those. People gobble that crap up. Yeah. Yep. And like you say, it's with the internet and how many stations there are. It used to be just three television stations, and a local station maybe, and you didn't have that much information flying at you. But now, it seems endless.
All right, man. Well, I know that you got to hit the road here, so we're going to wrap it up and call it a day.
Okay.
I felt enriched by this conversation.
I hope somebody
else who's watching it will, but it was a good one. I appreciate the personal level of the conversations. All right, so everybody watching, hey, thanks again for tuning in. We got to sign out here because Greg's about to hit the road.
Yes.
But as always, if you like what we do, hit the like button, subscribe button, share it, tell people about it, do whatever you got to do. If you're interested in owning an original Hildebrandt, a commission by any of the spiderweb art artists, or picking up a book or 10 sign, whatever, please visit the Spiderweb Art Gallery. The link is in the bottom left-hand side of your screen. You follow that URL, you get some high quality stuff and the printing quality on everything is absolutely superb. It is a superb product. Gene is very much a stickler for quality control, and it shows through in everything they sell on spiderwebart.com. So as always, thanks for tuning in. Greg, always wonderful chatting with you, man. And I'll talk to you later.
Bye, Keith. Bye, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Bye.